To begin with, for this opportunity, Hyderabad Manipuri Society. Mayam nadi kanone kal figure ni aduni hai, but I must tell you something very honestly. I've been asking this question myself for some time. Asuk yamraba miyam sida mi ama kaktana tawkanda tawreisi karigino aingonda samne attention pisal aise karigino sa yang toin hangi hoje. It's not a good sign. Asuk chauraba community mada lai shu hairaba mayam lairiba marak sidai sida laipak yu oiba issue ama tholakpa matamda lit tawgadaba mi si mi ama ni khaktang leibam thokte. There must be many of us, political class tagi oiba yai, intellectual circle tagi oiba yai, artist tagi oiba yai, somebody to inspire, somebody to lead the people say, Tokam Tokpani. I call the Masi Watpagumbagi sign in a low aingonda. So it's not a very positive sign. In fact, it tells you a cautious reminder that Akoisi as a community, Mapi Mapa Pandaba, Shepherd Yaudaba, Chai Regalaibu community gi symptom mama laire I say Akoi Masi Munna Kanpa Mama Twe. Mayamna Buddha in Sibidana to Warmbayai. But I've been asking this question myself quite a lot. It is a time your politicians should be leading from the front. You must be having some politicians which gives you confidence that we can face this problem. Unfortunately, many of you may not have that feeling now. Aikogi politicians sing na aikoi bulu chingaga aikogi khunai amsung furup asi kanbigani haibagi asa madugi hope to manga abne. So you think a small fry like me, a university or zamana litto gani haibagi feeling to lace. See, this is not a good sign. But it also another flip side, positive side amadana kari haigeda. Maming chatpa miyam na yaba mapangan kanba paisa paiba follower dena yoksang matamda paisa khaiba chatpa imung manung sangga panga leiba mayam adugumba so sanga mathaudu nattaba leipa ki amsung furup ki oiba thabak tholakpa matamda each and every one of us count haibagi reminder amasune ne lawbi yai that thabak macha ama tawra leijaba oza amana Tola aga chung thoraga ngang ise Dr. Ramanasu I want to like various professionals Ozasi tausia da tausia you will be amazed. Laipaki seba taurini CSO gi leader oidini politician eno nataba. There are a lot of people among us. Dukan pamboy be doctor be engineer be IT sector de be police be adagi army or VI, see, that feeling is there among us. That shows that you haven't heard the last of Manipur. Afauba, aina hariba phrase, James Johnstone and Nupama, later me Colonel, British key official of Manipur. Mana 1891 war, where the British name Manipur, my thiba pig ray, harakan, the man warning them, however. Adugi line today was the highest. My TV pig re Manipur, but remember you haven't heard the last of Manipur Hirame. So I would tell you this, you haven't heard the last of Manipur and particularly what Meiteis can do. If anybody doubts that you can cow down, you can suppress, you can threaten, you can intimidate Meiteis, you are mistaken. Asigi Potser is not a statement of chauvinism. It is a statement of self-assertion. If you think that you can push, shove, kick, insult, and you expect Meiteis to keep quiet, you are wrong. Anybody who thinks like that, you better rethink it. It might take thousands of years till the last man stays on this earth. Anywhere, even if you have driven them out from Manipur, make it sure that your life will always be haunted by Meiteis if you ever do that. Nushi chanana leminasi aikoi amatani. We are brothers and sisters kahaibasi. Timidity, mapangan sonba, emotional oiba, migi remark oina lauribra. When somebody says that we must live together, we are of the same stock, we should talk it out, we should resolve issues among ourselves. If we have made mistake, let me know where we have made mistake. If you have mistake, this is how we feel. Let's resolve, because in that piece of land we'll be together, whether you like it or not. Let's resolve. When you say like this, if there are other things that this is your weakness, rather than realizing that this is the wisdom of life, of the facticity of living together in a particular space. We're not talking about a relationship between a Manipuri and people stays far away in places like, for example, Hyderabad, for instance. We're talking about people who live together in that small space on the surface of the earth. A few kilometers you are bound to bump on each other. Adugi leminasi haibaduda usitawai mukpagi type tatawagi port oira agadi, like all other communities. I think they will also feel the same thing. If somebody started intimidating them, threatening them, then they will also do the same thing. So please don't forget that the Meiteis as a community will also do the same thing. Masi haibasa. It is a message to the others as well as to ourselves. Asai koi gi rohanna lemba khotpa in tauriba poto. There may be people like that, but I can tell you by and large, many of us, because we have lived centuries and we have memories, I have understood my community, then I don't think we will simply give up. So what is that we are not going to give up? Is the idea of Manipur, right? Manipur have a concept of leading as I say the Pavung Jenta Kumar Sharman Iram be say Mayekni Pavung Aribam Sham Sharman Pan Surni Sanale Park Manipur Koloinangi Manipur. There's a patriotic songs that have moved people at least since the 60s and 70s onwards. Say young Kayum Fulum, legend or we say with them. Other than that, Pari Mom Samu Pangan Basa. These are something that instill a patriotic sense in us. It's not an invented song yesterday or day before yesterday. It has moved people, to sacrifice their life. Even when they know that they are going to be killed or die, it is that sense which never make them turn away. They face it. It's not only about Pauna Brajabasi in 100 years ago. In my own generations, and I have seen people who have refused to surrender and die, prefer to die for the cause that they believe in. Adugi iyawa kangbune koi says it, right from Pauna Brajabasis. But even today, you look at many of these people who died in this conflict also. They're driven by that patriotic sense. You may not die like that. Many of you are involved. Paisa pidana, your time spent avduna, opinion expressed avduna, feeling expressed avduna. That's the sense of solidarity and being oneness. So let's remind ourselves and anybody who doubts us about this feeling first of all. I want to divide what I want to speak today in 4 parts. The first part, I want to tell you that as a community, as a kunaya, we have also a lot of things to improve, lot of things to correct among ourselves. As a community, don't think that we are all holy cows and we have all the strength. We have weaknesses. And as psychologists often tells you, your true character will come when you face a crisis. It's a moment to understand what is your strength and your weakness as an individual. If you face any problem in life, whether it is a relationship problem, financial problem, professional problem, that's the time when you know who you are really, what you are capable of, your strength and weakness. So therefore, psychologists often remind us that crisis, therefore, is also a moment for growth, to a new self, to reinvent oneself with new vigor. Anoba punsiro lama anoba kunai ma oinanabagi moment amani tangkak amani akhoi na ngasi thengnariba se haibasi su khoi kaudaba fai adu natragadi we will be overwhelmed, we will consolidate our weakness rather than removing it. We will not understand our strength and how to use our strength at the right time. So this crisis that we are going through right now should be a moment to reflect on what is the weakness of we as a community, what are the strengths that we have as a community, how to correct our mistakes, how to strengthen our strength and so on. Adugi matam mamani. So when you do that, please simply do not get angry with the cookies or this community or that community. Also, it's a time to look within ourselves, just as we respond to this crisis. Aikoina crisis is respond to matamgi sarup amu oigadabane, to reflect on ourselves. Aduga nauna khangaiba isabu isana khangzabagi self knowledge do madu apply to raga respond to gadabane ba koigi crisis ida. So with this belief that I want to remind you that we live in an age, first part I share to do not be very reactive. When somebody says something, at the bang, at the tawbi, natraga, laiba information, the kind of information that you get, how valid, how accurate, how to use this information, how to use your discretionary power, how to respond. Natraga di mina invite tawra na unda sawalaga tawusuyaya. So you need to be very careful about the way you respond. There's a difference between responding and reacting. There's a distinction between the two. Kana namna taklong toro kana na baklong halis di reaction ni, and it is nangi self agency se kaya yaw de reaction dadi. It is your will is not very prominent when you react because it is majorly determined by the others. Respond haiba kanda na mana determine tawroiba mana tawrei sai ni absorb toksela kanda aigi nungdagi ai own self agency dagi tholokpa behavior oigane. So we do not need to react, but we need to respond. We think and absorb. Second part, I have been saying this, do not be aggressive, but be assertive. There's a distinction again between being assertive and being aggressive. When we say assertive, it means standing up for yourself. If somebody said something bad about you, Amina kari khan gini log kya kahenge and mana ibunung siroidra mari kai gidra kaina, you are overwhelmed by that, then you are not able to assert your own self. So that is the assertive training you have it. Thaba matawu matamda imu manunga sungai ai nupi na kari harakani ai nupa na haira disi tawra de disi yaroi na nangi own khanjaba poto assert tawu ngamdragadi, you will be dependent and your life will be gone. So that is called assertiveness. If somebody says something about you, find yourself and assert. Aggressive is the migi mang tak na ba tawgi potuni. And if somebody says something bad about our community, then we need to stand up and say, this is not us. Do not do this to me. Don't do this thing to me. And I can do this to you as well. I can do this. Haina assert to machangi, but you don't need to be aggressive. You can be consumed by anger also. Anger should be used as a weapon. You should not be used by anger. Anisigi distinction am so kanmam thoe. Asaw bona ekhoi bu lamjing aga chatpa ma natraga na asaw bu do aina lamjing aga chatpa ma. So you need to use your anger rather than anger using you. Madudani ekhoi martial art training tawbadasu khotbadasu mina sawalakpada provoke tawbada tawhandris. Always, if you remember Muhammad Ali, that great boxer, he is very good at provoking his opponent. and I want to nang fubu ngam gadro adu tawdra kaine to massive khana ba hodring ade boxing bout ming on the taptai sawan mane. This is a deliberate ploy to make the other person consumed by anger and then react rather than respond. These are some of the basic things. So the first thing I want to tell you is the kind of information you have. ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯔꯝꯗ ꯑꯣꯏꯗꯕ ꯉꯥꯡꯉꯦ ꯂꯥꯟꯕ ꯉꯥꯡꯉꯦ ꯅꯠꯇꯕ ꯀꯗꯥꯏꯗꯩ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯏꯅꯣ ꯑꯔꯥꯟꯕꯁꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯅꯣ ꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯈꯪꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯪꯉꯦ. So for people from outside the state also it's very important. The kind of information you have, we need to check. Tawriba post karino se ai ahanbada akhoi se hujik post truth kawe hai akhoina leiba matam se where facts and figures don't matter much but emotion and perception matters more. And akhoi social science kamun masi se post truth world kawe. We are in a post truth world. Perception is more important than facts. And masi manipulate to se media na to bune se already chahi cham hela ba culture ne se akhoi na khangiba knowledge se direct khangmam tanate, it is through media. Ising kayam sai Hyderabad se how hot is this today is not direct information. Is the newspaper which tell you that so and so centigrade Celsius is there and that's for you feel it. So everything is information. What happened in Kerala, what happened in Manipur is not a direct knowledge like you have a direct knowledge of your family. Ayukta kana chagre who has taken breakfast, who hasn't not taken breakfast is a direct knowledge. So most of the things that we know in the world is not a direct knowledge, it's already mediated knowledge. This is since more than 100 years, human societies have been living in what we call it mediated realities, a reality which is mediated. So my first task for you is to share a little bit of how the media manipulates. For example, look at this one. When 3 Meiteis were sleeping in the house and the people came and killed them mercilessly, slit their throat, and what the newspaper report, you will not even get the headlines. You will not say that 3 Meiteis were killed. New fresh violence and 3 killed. That would be the news. And look at the way when 3 cookies were killed day before yesterday. It was in the headlines. Fresh violence, 3 cookies killed. So migi mamita da ma cookie mar gaya chakidwene. Maitai mar gaya, nobody knows. That's how the media manipulates. So you need to know in the world, a mediated world, how Maitais have been branded as the culprit. And we are the one who started it and we are the one who is doing the job of killing perpetrators. And some of our teams are working on media analysis. We have already discovered how many times Maitais were presented as perpetrators in news report. We have the data now for 2 months at least, from May and June on national media. How many times Maitais were presented as victims. How many times they have identified the location of a Maitai village and that of the cookies and so on. So this is how the media manipulates. So we will be coming up with a full report. There will be first an interim report very shortly. It's a tedious task. It's analyzing newspaper every day, all the news, and we are checking around about 10 portal included, print media as well as portal. We are trying to check, analyze the images they presented on the paper and so on. Adugi part oina. I don't know how many of the people are from outside the state. I'll share you how the national media has been doing it. I'll show you how the violence started. Masi, I'm not trying to tell you that cookies are lying or something. Here my job is to tell you how contradictions and the media is not picking up those contradictions. They will never question those things. So I'll show you one cookie lady who is the convener of cookie women forum speaking, and he said where the violence started on 3rd May. And this is how she said in her interview with Karan Thapar, a well-known journalist. Just listen to this interview, where the violence started on 3rd. The video.
The time when the violence started on the 3rd of May. It started in the Imphal Valley.
What did she say? It started in Imphal Valley. This is national media. Okay? Now let's check. Wait. The other one, you understand this is what it's been said. The journalist is never asked. Do you think the violence started in Imphal Valley? Who will cross-check this? Did Karan ask him? Is it true? Because I was told that it started somewhere else. Magi bias ni. Akhoi do eragadi akhoi na Hyderabad di cookie na di si haina ain harakaneba. If you remember my interview with him, and I said, "Now na kaino how kim na ngang idu na face value da laura mi amadu nang doubt tori do kaino haida." Somebody has to turn the game, no? Adugi pose asima adu moi akhoi da tawai wani mingonda di taw desa. That shows the biasness of the interviewer. Mana masibog to torok interview dana except for promote na adu hiram in a negative way but pick up to bunatana akhoi na ngangam ba si use auraga cookie the Professor Bimol na si hiram in am ta tabrane. He wouldn't do that. That's a typical way in which the interview is conducted. Okay? So atopa mana Hyderabad labor professor ne khoi di junior ni satra ne khoi no zawari ngai da satra ina le ramba kam university chawre maming am chu chat pani ma de. And I tell you, jokes apart, he is one of the finest minds that I have seen from Manipur. I know zawar ko matam da ko khoi Manipur gi naha mam u da makok yam na sharp oiba yam phabane do art nataga nangi hairiba mahido chumna season na ba ethical oina season na ba ma la na season na ba bam su yabro do adu mana mukari igi yeng sebako how the violence started in 6th time Indian Express the mana biba. Just see how he wrote and how it started. Mathakta lady say 6 me the man even ever. Ma haina, you know, somebody, one Maitai was beaten up in Churanchampur because he ran over the water and so on. And in response to that, Maitais got angry and they burned a gate and burned some Wi-Fi houses in Kangwai village. Maitai driver am furu bagi Maitai na saudana Kangwai village the Wi-Fi village kagi yung khara mai thai aduga cookie gisu thare na iba mana. That is 6. Already matang video the image ma'am told about AK-47 by people walking in Torbung areas and others. The same person changed in 12 June. Sidana mukari hairake da really chatlu ba halak pa kangbu ma maitai na phurak padagi. Dagi Kangbai village the moina mai tharak padagi cookie sing na saw na maitai ge yum mai thai hoi. There are 2 different versions by the same person in 2 different times, recorded in newspaper like this. This is the same person. Ngasai ayuk ay kari breakfast chare bread ka omelette ka chare na hujik khuma mahore ngak larega samosa chai mukhum ngak larega na masala dosa chare hai di noi aingonda kai khanga de geba. This bowling that's very unfortunate for me. I mean, a person of his stature, he should be very careful. I feel sad for him. I'm not angry. You understand what I'm saying? Ikai darane sum khalraga. Ai so hai ge ba Professor Bimol dung sai sumai manganga me do horen ama chalaga na mungang le me di shu is kanano tari ba noira aira ba. And that's what I said, I feel sorry for this. So this is how, so the moral of the story is moigi wanate. I'm not talking about cookies. So when you read something in newspaper, please use your mind, the discretion to see what is truth, what is not truth, is there a contradictions? Use your brain. In today's world, do not simply share pictures. Oh, my day hale, yes, you pare, and so many videos will come. Do not simply put it up. Use your discretion. And that has been an advice by many people now in the world of internet now. social media and post-truth world, you should be very careful about consuming information. Lainagi maramdo oibeyai. It could be something to do with your health issues. If you hit this medicine, if you have this guava, then you will be okay with your kidney problem. If you don't even dissect properly, don't follow it up. Some Rishi, some Baba said like that, don't follow it. That means the responsibility is huge on us in our contemporary world, how to digest information and use them. So be careful, especially in conflict situation like ours. Have the discretion to share or not to share images and others which will inflame people's emotions and so on. So we have to be responsible. If the other group are doing it, let them do it. That's their character, it's not ours. I haizari sigyan tarbi ko ma. Mai magi chanabini. Mina fatre na koi supata vdiya dedan. But I had to respond to with it to me. Achapna yam the akoi na haidu di. Huyangau na kongaga, I know huyangau do no kundara kongaga drabaiga. Either way you will avoid or you will kick him out. That's the way you need to do that. You don't have to reduce yourself to. If somebody is spreading fake news and others, don't retaliate by creating your own fake news and so on. That is my advice and my suggestion to my community. Please don't do it. Now look at the newspaper report from Indian Express. On the first day, it did not come in the front page. It came in page number 9. What is the headline says? Curfew in Manipur after rally against ST status turns violence. Peaceful rally turns violence. That's how the newspaper. Thankfully, the reporter who is filing this story is a tribal guy from Manipur, not a Meitei. So much is that distortion. If it is Meitei, then they will say, oh, Meitei ne report kiya bolega. But this guy is a Kom guy. I know him. He is a journalist. He used to edit Imphal Free Press as well. Makada asida yarum mise. Can you pull it up? Is it possible? No. Wednesday afternoon, it says the rally organized in Churanchandpur district turned violent, and it says in the bordering Bishnupur district, you will see following the classes, unidentified miscreants set fire to houses belonging to a particular group. Who's that group? It's Meitei, they didn't mention. But interestingly, when the retaliatory violence following the class, sporadic violence, incidents of violence were reported in several parts of the state, including capital Imphal. In Imphal city, there were several reports of LA's attacks on homes belonging to tribal residents. So in the case of the retaliatory actions, tribal victim is identified. When the Meitei became victims, they did not identify. So in the minds of the 3 cookie kill and 3 kill, Meitei sleeping, you can see the difference in how this image has been manipulated over the last 2 months by the national media. If the one which was burned to a particular community, if they were tribal, then since he has already identified the other one as tribal, he would have done the same thing, right? So we know that image is, you want to see that, many of you must be familiar with that image. What happened in Torbung area. I've talked to many people from Torbung, Govindpur and Torbung, Bangla, how it all started. You have seen those people. You want to see glimpses of that image? What happened in Torbung areas? Do you have the video? A small one. This is the picture. And you know what some people are spreading in the first few days? These are Meiteis is what some people are saying. This Meiteis with the AK-47 rifles. This is what some people are saying on national media. This is the standard of news reporting that has gone on. And therefore, we have to be very, very careful. It's okay, keep that video out. So the first thing I'm sharing with you is that Akoigi handak thoi, but not only related to this incident, generally speaking, you should be very careful about the kind of information you get, especially in social media, but including the national media or the mainstream media as well, because these guys are not completely, professional. As even PCI standard, Press Council of India's own standard said, don't name the community when you're reporting, blah, blah, blah. None did it. But I am very impressed with some of the local newspapers in Imphal. When I was cross-checking it, we were trying to tally this thing, paper published in Imphal. None of them identified the communities. They said houses were burned belonging to a particular community, so and so. And so the first few days, I don't know whether they maintained the standard all along. I'm just sharing you the first few days report by the newspapers in Imphal is following what PCI, Press Council of India's standard. Okay? And Editor Guild of India has warned that media, this is a press release by Editor Guild of India saying that the media should be careful not to be part of the information war. This is what the Press Council of, Editor Guild of India has warned. Remove that video. You get what I'm saying now? So I think we need to be very careful how the narrative has been structured. Now, let's be careful. I'm saying this first part is how we know how this reality has been shaped by the national media. Who is going to speak up about this? Is a university teacher who should speak up? Or should it be also our journalist fraternity back home? All Manipur, working journalists, unions, editors in Manipur. What do you think? Shouldn't they also speak up? That's what we are. See, we are doing this analysis for now 1.5 months. Day in, day out, we are working. There's young people and professionals, they are working also, but at the same time investing their time and energy to do this kind of analysis, going line by line, understanding standard of analysis of newspaper, looking at the literatures from abroad as well as in this country, how to do media analysis, what had happened in Gujarat, news reporting, what had happened in the other riots in India. We've been cross-checking all of them and then see. And I realized that there is something very, very unfortunate has happened over this time. Especially some of the national newspapers horribly went wrong according to their own standard of professional journalism. So this is the first part that I want to share with you. So everything, especially from outside the state, whatever you heard about Manipur is a classic example that I am sharing with you. You can see this is a headline. Tribal men killed 3 laymen. When 3 Meiteis who were sleeping in their own house and they were killed, the news was not covered like this in the headline. That's an interesting way to manipulate your mind. Now let's go to the second part of my sharing with you. I said we need to understand ourselves. So let's try to understand what Manipur is. Paung paharina sakpa singlei paki ima haini isay malay binu tabira ba khomlang laman singlam loinangi minung si sawi he ima last solution gave the Chinglei Paki Ima Manipur in a loy ko. So we are a mountainous region, a hill state. Sigi concept say that we don't have, that Manipur is a hill state is something that forget about the rest of the country or the world. Even among Manipuris, Meiteis particularly, even they don't know this one. You think that the relationship between Banaras, Allahabad, Lucknow and its relationship with Kulu, Manali and Uttarakhand is the same as our relationship with Imphal and Churachandpur or Imphal and Ukhrul. You do not realize this one. There's so much so that even the state government did not know that we are a hill state, despite the planning commission being classified Manipur in its policies as a hill state. Manipur government petitions that please declare Manipur as a hill state. Angak pune koi kambu se You know, you check it 2014-15 in newspaper headline the ko. Pauna Brajabasina makutta thang pairaga yegnabagi came the landa bada. British ki sifais in a nomai kapak with the Pauna Brajabasi sea, adoma land from the sea within a day. This is a news headline. Does it make sense? I have been investigating this for decades now. Anthropology the personality, every individual has a personality. Like that, every community, every nation has a personality. They call it national characteristic. American anthropologists what makes Japanese tick kind of study chrysanthemum and the sword kind of root benedictia fabularium. This is about the national character of Japanese. In the 1990s, with the globalization, also national corporate marketing with the culture of a particular nation. They invest money to investigate. For example, what is the typical way in which the Indians tend to order food in the restaurant, and how does it happen in Americans? You know, they try to investigate. So India the chalakanda dina pulap changminaga kai chajiga ibani ma si cha da si nang na si chau kai da tawna bane ko aruga western countries na ai si chani amana ai si chani ai chane. So they said individualism versus collectivism ina order and tawbagi national cultures. How does Indian behave and how an American behaves? So broadly this study is called national characteristic studies, national character in Amlay. Akoi gisu Manipur gisu national character. Akoi ga laiminari ba furup sing sisu akoi ga yam mana ba yam yawbani. I know jingang do isna akoi gi maitai do ina haibagi wani many of the character mana bani khetna ba khara sudum laibane ba ko. But shared to element laigani khetna ba su laigani. Broadly Manipur na sumu mayamanani if you check with Assamese ga akoi ga ngyang narakpada irrespective of your communities within Manipur. Manazaba laibani. Ngang bada suna akogi spy agencies in si maitai ni nate je kai kai Manipur machani nate je kai khange da akoi the native habit ko ne khoi khangda ba akoi se as jam haigan mane as sai ja you will never hear this among Bengalis. So and then you worry some chat the intelligence agency na phare se achidi Manipur machani phana nang accent American dong ngang asu ko I still I don't want me in Kaitro Kanava. I say, no, absolutely, was that maintaining pathway. It's a typical habit. So these are the ways people study in detail. Characters a Karino, Moigi style a Karino, guys. So the second part, I want to understand ourselves. So let's begin what basic the hill state is in a Karino. It's a newspaper headline. I don't know how it becomes a news headline. Pauna Bajavachi charged against the enemy camp and he was shot at, but he did not die in the battlefield. That's a newspaper headline. You must collect money and give some gift to those newspaper editors. Angak po sangsane ba ikoi se si harong saurak kaneba na nya man chin chin ngang bi grama ne koi gi pastor ramana koi meitei je thagali ge harau ne sidari sawe do ara ai gi moment da ai na hai se sida ba te ngasai na hob da je gi do we must be honest to know what our weakness so that we can change it, and this is the crisis that is time to change. Khana nainaga tanaraga thabuk tawbugi habit akhoi da watli si taw in a dictator loin chatpani dictator yadraga na singdok char o khabarda wakhan tamina silao. It's a subtle way of intimidating, right? Aduna akhoi da democratic oiba space amda tanabagi walak paduna neba noina ngasi akhoi na kana na kari hai no khoi ju wakhan yam ama tamana drai je kaino da we don't have a culture of dialogue and discussion and evolving a collective opinion ke culture laite ba dictate to ba group to x ke group amana dictate to rongani y na tawni contestation tawni amana sondagi bida magi dictate chala roi amagi setkani, but people gi nungdagi magi miya mamoi bagi wakhal dagi tholak pa share pot ama thokpa ngamdri se ngasai gi khana naina ba tanabagi saruk sai khoi de wat pagi ne na lawe ba. According to the limited knowledge I have about this school of thought on national characteristic studies ki technique the season evaluate how come that become a national newspaper headline for a art to talk to one CCTV thangale matam amada aduga thamanga to press conference one of the ministers said CCTV do mai khudong chada bana mata yadre matam do the mai si 3-4 hours en lakte ba adu mai laitring I don't know CCTV thangal idun kari wakane thangal na hangmam tho ebo ko de natra. That's how we've been doing like this. Hujiksu aduna kari tholakani kamai tawrakani se koi khangdaba ma yawbane se aduna bas moi di plan tawgraba ma le ka haise German road kaina sarambe kangpopi ko loi phau le me churan chambu haise ngarang na handa khangpoi type tawre so akoi da masi wat le mase ai nga sai ni koi kambom na sida bada tawna no this is not sida ba this is critical analysis of ourselves so that we know the weakness then we will change it. Sigi honesty masang edu crisis aduna Manipur gi maram da ai khra share tawge hana khangmusu yaw mani khangda ba yaw masu yai what is Manipur let's see akoi chinglai park ne se yengo are we plain Indo-Gangetic plain da laibra natraga yengo ba just hold maning kitang han ba ya bra kitang han dok pa ya bro maning han ba ba hello 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 Zakraba see these are called Himalayan ranges right Himalayan ranges sumaina notice Arunachal dagi sumaina is sloped down Andaman Bauyaw is there. This is a fall created by a collision between two plates Eurasia plate haibamga Indian plate haibamga there was a collision some 50 million years ago. And that's how Himalayan ranges comes up. And Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, Arakan ranges and all the way to Andamans is part of that fall. Thengaina budagi tongkhalak pasaruk tuneba, the elevated portion. Aduga Thengaina budagi kushan gi pasaruk se. There's a depression around this place. In millions of years, ising gonna putharak sediments mayam gonna form, it filled in then it became what is known as Indo-Gangetic plain, a very fertile plain created by those sedimentation. So Lucknow, Allahabad, all of them are part of the plain. Uttarakhand is part of what is called Shivalik range, magi kwaidagi name Himalayan gi saruktuniko. So hill and the valley ki relationship ka, plain and this mountainous relationship ka se kheneba. So Manipur and Nagaland and Mizoram also you can see the little close you just give a little closer shot of this one. These are all hill tracks. Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur is an all hill track. The white spot in between is the valley. Valley by definition is part of a mountainous region. There is no valley in Indo-Gangetic plain. Do you have a valley in Allahabad? In Lucknow? No, this is plain. So valley by definition is part of a mountainous region. Sigi Valley, so you do a zoom in, then you say, so first thing you realize that Manipur is part of a mountainous Himalayan region. That is why Planning Commission termed Manipur as a hill state along with Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya. These are called hill state. Aduga atopa hill labor, Jharkhand, Maharashtra and Assam. You have this portion is Assam. You have this New Kachar, Karbi along and all these things. So they have portions of hill. More in a planning commission that they are called state with hill areas. Chingi saruk yawbalay park haibama amana chinglay park haibama. Hill state haibama amana state with hill areas. So they classify Assam as a state with hill areas and Manipur as a hill state. So we think that our relationship with our brothers in the upland areas, in Ukhrul and others, as if this is a relationship between a Homia speaker of the Brahmaputra Valley and the Nagas of the Naga Hills, Nagaland, Olai Besigi, Mari Dugamana Laureba. Guwahati is roughly 50 meters above sea level, whereas Kohima is 1,450 Mukileva. This is almost like 30 times higher. Okay? And Aizawl is also something like 1,200 meters above sea level, and Guwahati is 50 meters. You know the difference between valley and plains. Brahmaputra Valley, I say, it's a part of the Indo-Gangetic plain. The plain, the mountainous and hill region relationship is not the same as the valley in its relationship with the hill areas within the mountainous terrain. So you see that Imphal is 790 meters above sea level. 790. And Guwahati is 50 meters. How high is Churachampur town? 820. This is part of the same. In fact, if you zoom in, it is what the geography and geologists call it Central Valley. You know where is Churachampur? It is this valley. Is Churachampur a hill or is it a valley? It's a valley. You see this one. You check it, play it out. This is Churachampur for you. Torbung is there. The blue one is Loktak Lake. On the side is the Imphal. How do you separate hill and valley kind of concept? What is the relationship between valley and hills? The relationship between Churachampur, which is 820 elevations, and Imphal is 700. You can see Loktak, the other side of the Loktak is Imphal. And you are talking here in national media, in other words, hill and valley and hill. And how high is Urkurul? It's almost like double Imphal. 1,500 and so on. Twice. Now what is the difference between Kohima and Guwahati? 30 times. 50 versus 1,500. One is 780 versus 1,500. It's a double. And you can see it is part of the mountainous. And many of these hill locks are part of the hill districts, including in between. So how do you separate this hill and valley? Particularly places like Kangpokpi, which is in the northern tip of this Central Valley. Ukhrul is okay. Ukhrul is upland. But Churachampur town is this. You understand this one? This is the thing that you must understand, that Manipur is a mountainous terrain, is a geographical, a geological and political economic fact given by the Planning Commission as well. But we started thinking that as if the relationship between Imphal and Churachampur and Imphal and Ukhrul is like that of the Guwahati and the Kohima and Guwahati and the Lusai Hills, or the Allahabad and the Uttarakhand and Manali and so on. It's a false conception that you have it. That's the first thing that we need to know about ourselves. This is not me who's saying, this is the Planning Commission who's defining Manipur as a hill state. So please keep this thing in mind. The first thing we need to know. It's okay. Now, let me tell you about Shigi. All these hill areas, they're higher, like, Ukhruls and others are much higher, 2,000s, 1,800 meters. What they found out, archaeologists have found out, is that human settlement began in the higher ranges of the hill. Anybody who has done archaeology will know there's something called Paleolithic site, which is the old Stone Age sites are found in the higher regions, and the new Stone Age, which is the Neolithic sites, are found in the lower ranges of the hill and the foothills and the valley. What does these evidences show? That the human settlement began in the upland in the reaches and then slowly come down as the water receded. So that's how the humans, that's why Meitei's origin myth says Awang Kauru Atsupam Laimanai Kunda Hanbais. That we began from the hill and Kauru is that anthropological sense is because it is a memory embedded in our mind that human settlement began upland and it comes down. And it is a typical tendency across all the mountainous regions. From the higher regions, people come down towards the lower regions. And the more urbanization happens as human civilization progresses, more and more people come down to the lower ranges. It's everywhere. Manipur is the same, so people come down to the valley areas more and more. It's a movement. So don't think that Meiteis will love to ship en masse in the hill others. No, many will come down. Not only Meiteis, others will also come down. You realize that the Torbung area is these are all tribal and Meiteis settlement together. It's a very natural process in that sense. So we have a false idea of what is hill, what is valley, what is this relationship. Tongkhalai khudingi kanunan laureba, tonganba duniyam dong ureba. So our relationship is very different. This is something that I want all of us to be aware. And state formation theory da kai haigeda. You know, in the valley here, the food production more, surplus tholakpadagi population hengalakpagi state formation hore hai. State mayam leirangani aduna ne koi Angom clan Khuman gai leise. These are different kingdoms. The one who was at the center, which is in Kangla, became more and more powerful. Mane absorbed tokselakanda. Meitei is born out of an amalgamation of various people. Makhade kumdharam basyawrangani. Aduna koina Nongpok haram, Nongchup haram. Lot of people immigrated. And as a culmination of those mixing is what the Meiteis are. Aduna ne koi the dual language me am leise. Pot amagi wahay ahum like English asu am leidana. Pot amagi wahay mari mga leitro. Exasperation, anger, frustration, similar manner but pot se synonym me am leijo na koi dasu Liza, Ising, Namiba, Malaya, Nungsit, mari leise ne chahi kum. So you have multiple uses, English ka samane. So amalgamate lakpo community, that's what Meitei is. So please remember that. It is evolved out of these trajectories. The Meitei is kanano ne yam na kuba ming de yeng basa koi lan ganeba. We are much more a broader consolidated community in that sense. Nata na sumnagi yek sarai tare khaktang yenga di bamon dagi yadagi yek sarai tare de chandaba yumnak su pai gai lady. So we need to know how to imagine Meiteis as a community. That's something that we need to know. Aduga, state formation I want to cut short here because this is going to be a long time otherwise. I just wanted to two more things to speak. So I will end by saying that Manipur 700 adu ada kind. You must remember that Constitution of India recognizes that Manipur existed before the Indian Republic came into being. India ki constitution se leitringa ki mamang dagi Manipur leirame sa. It is recognized none other than by the Indian Constitution itself. In Schedule 1 of the Constitutions, Manipur is defined. Do you have that definition here? It is defined as Manipur ki definition 19 and 3. The territory which immediately before the commencement of this constitution was being administered as if it were a chief commissioner's province under the name Manipur. It says that before the commencement of the constitution, इसी constitution से पहले ही जो entity territory है मणिपुर के नाम किया, यही territory है मणिपुर. That's how the constitution defines. This shows that Manipur existed before the constitution was framed. And what is this chief commissioner's province? It was the implementation of the merger agreement. On 15 October 1949, Manipur assembly was dismissed and it was put under a commissioner's rule. And that is how that commissioner ruled. Later on, those commissioners' rule in the Indian constitution were clubbed together under a Part C states. So that is the history of Manipur. It has a long history. But remember that Meiteis have a problem. We tend to, some of us at least, not all of us, some of us suffer from, I call it, imperial nostalgia. Akhoi ki ipa ipu singa du leiramani, this is akhoi ki ni, akhoi ki ne. That's a kingship. We are not that kingdom. We are a modern state, democratic and republican ki idea na guide tauba ningthau palinga ki leipak na teba. You must distinguish today. Photo yeng bada angang weringa ki picture duga ai ga yeng na bada ai su ai ne dum hai ne, but that is not me, right? I know oizaraga su I am very different from that 3 years old or class 10 student. Bimol in class 10, Bimol in college is very different from Bimol today. So in a very similar sense, today's Manipur is very different from in its composition and its structures and its form. All of them are different. So you need to understand that contemporary Manipur is not in a monarchic or imperial nostalgia. I koi gilera meaning adu di ningthau na laura mane, that ningthau is different. Today there is no ningthau. We choose our rulers, our governors and so on. Akoi na govern to bungak tani sigi pochima akoi da aware obam change. So ngasigi Manipur gi ngamkhai kaiba yaroi na koi na lawbo matam se you must know that it cannot be defined in terms of an imperial possession gi type tai koi ningthau na lauram balam ni ka yaroi de yaroi buzi. It must be defined according to the people who reside in this territory today. Si Meitei khaktara ba ngasi Manipur lai ni se. Can you tell me? Akhoi khaktara ba Manipur se. No. Then we all, when we say we, then you must recognize that we, matlab, we are not the only one. Maitei kakta nate. Aduna sige peoplehood ki idea ma karamba yumfam da sara kanda koi punga dagi haiba ma wakhalon ma changi ningthau palinga gi wakhalon da leiba aduna manipur sagat padi yaroi aduna ne ngasai haije gi ai khoi da moment se kari no haiba mun na khangu natraga di ai gi past ka present ka kari mari le nei manipur se kari no khangda da na phum leiraga di khatna chaina bagi pot se yam hengal lakane na haiba gi wane baina. So we must know that अखोई कोगनेट कम्युनिटी ना लेमिनरी बमायाम सिंगसिगी कॉमन ओइबा यानाबा तानारगा खनरगा खन नैनरगा थोकदबो वखलमदा लेमिनगदा मिनिसिगी स्पेस द सेगाइनरबसु यारोइदबो वानेबा असिगी से सेगाइगे तौरिबा कांगु सिंगसिसु मोइसु वखन खंदबो वातना तौरिनेबा पुलप लेमिनरगा कॉमन गुड थिगदबा आई की सुलैबा इमुंग अमा लेमिनबदा आई हाइबम सुलैनी मयाम गे हाइबम सु खनमम चंगेदनको सिगी आई अमसुं खनमम सुं आई गी इमुंग गे खनमम ngambagi कोक यावदना आई न सुमला अकांद दिंग असि तालिबा कुकी जौ काइन हाइसि हौरकपदे ngु कुकी चिन मार जौ इन हाइफेन सिजन मरि इरंगनि खलेरगा कुकी चिन मार अमु इन अमना कुकी जौ mi जौ इन हाइफेन एथे you know that this is a multiple identities within that. Asige manung da so hang majority im thola kadoni thada is 2 lakh plus none of the other tribes 1 lakh of the 20,000 the 40,000 the labor pai ga yauri moi marakta. See, everybody across the world knows that consolidate taurakanda do majority among thola kane masi moina majoritarian and chairi cha moi ge marakta su dum thola kane bas. That's what the naga in a punraga who's eastern naga sing like koi chaktung pidung dare I ko tungambi state am leje gen tala isini. So karamba the sigi identity sigi पोचे थमना थमना मसिगी वांग बदसु कॉमन गुड अमा थीबं ngamna bagi wakhalo namada yumfam moiraga sagatpa manipur ma ngasi mathau taib aduna koina manipur ge ngamkham kaiba yaroi haiba matamda ina mayam da haijaga doisa imperial nostalgia ningthau palinge gi kokta haiga dobuna teba ai koi ngasi leminari ba geographically samne intake oi bane koi khangau ga da bana it is an organic relationship Wang malalu ba pot hana ningthau na panglo loksala bada koi ki wang malan sustain tau ngam da na chakhi busu yam yauri ne ba. So geography has something to do with politics. State number formation da East Pakistan West Pakistan am le me do geography ne support of the mina to khai ta ge bra do Bangladesh solo is ne ba. So in political geography da geography ne support of the ni state do ngasi le ba Manipur se koi na ai ne chum analysis to za bada geography ne support of area ne ba se अकोई खंग ला टेंगनो पल है से मैं हम खंग भी प्रकारी की नोइसा पल सारी ने से इस स्टॉकेट डिफेंस की पल ने बा पलेल दने बेस के मोर का काखल लगा खोई वांग बे स्पॉट ने दुना खोइबु पल पल्ले लेना ने मसे ngасai की सिफाई सिंग की पल ले रंबा स्टेट टू डिफेंस तो न बले रंबा पोट ngak तने स्टेट अमगी फॉर्मेशन दा अदुना सिंग दगी सुमाई काखल कांदा हाइदाबाद बोले रंगने दगी खितंग हेंगो ब कसार दगी कबो वैली से ज्योग्राफी ने सस्टेन तोरक तबने दो ngasi की लेरी ब ज्योग्राफी सिदी it is ngasi की लेरी ब मणिपुर सिदी ज्योग्राफी ने सु सपोर्ट ओवर पोट ने से kai खंगे दना all the rivers in neighboring Nagaland flows from southeast to northwest. Same thing happened in Mizoram. All the river flows from southeast to northwest. Manipur na kai chenge the from the north to south or southwest to southeast the loin chen maneba. So it is the same geographical structure. Amna organic oina samnaba leiba mafam lonely the su same family dagi tholak pa chahi lising leiminarak pagi folklore dagi kai dagi share thum ching na toba dagi yokchak na man tharaga share toramagi life form do reinvent toba ngam dadana Delhi dagi thadar ko paisa do phangno hona da aigi ne imung sida da ka bedroom amana aigi oirane adai da kitchen am jung chajan na de kitchen du na mu onthoga bedroom amana kan charaga yum je machet tabagi ko ama khoi Manipur da across community taweba. This must be talked out. Your identity politics must have a limit to this one. Akoi se na Manipur se karama no haida inu se hajar kadoi se anoba Manipur ama reinvent obo se ngasigi anoba wakhalon ngasigi idea me se koi wari watai sarga changi aduna akoi na madugi lit lobada maitai has a huge responsibility adugi historical responsibility malai basisu koi maitai kaudo fai aduna yamna khuba miyeng de yengma maitai gi miyeng na tabada chauna yengaga anoba Manipur ma invent obo ngamna na ba koi hona ga da bane Marangi point anisime de yam tuna loisanjarage kaino da already aina touch tawgada major di tawframina ahum subada hojik thoi be Iran se kari nongte yeng bi oba Mayamna haiba, this is separate administration is a result of this violence. We can't live together. No, it's not. Separate administration is already an aspiration among many communities in Manipur, especially among what we call a scheduled tribe. Sigi violence, sigi mamang daga laida pot ngak tene ai ngasai ba akuba community ki identity am the base of akuba mieng de yeng ba pot ne ba laimi na ri ba geography sigi nature se karino world ho ngai ba posi kaino hang da Delhi da gi paisa thadar ga leiba ngak tani na ai gi saruk tor ga ai ngasai ne ha na imung am leiram ba du dai da bedroom amaga drawing room mo na amana sajangar ga amana kitchen amung napsan amada am tor ga thugai ba gi fibum da tawre ba kaino da paisa du mapan ni thadar ka dum ni na asigi wakhanlon leiba Manipur ma new Manipur ma ko invent tong ngam dabne aduna sigi aspirations je hana dagi leibane ba very exclusivist identity politics na yumfam moiraga lakpa identity ne ba what has happened is masigi identity is a jow kambu ge ma leiri ba jow ina sagarna bagi remember that Raja Gaukhatang Memorial Football Tournament and they started in 2012 who is Gaukhatang Sutia tribe ki chief ni Lusai na khwai dagi ki ba ning thawa ma ne ba Sutia tribe but ngasi na ngasi lusai ju kaisu loin yaw ga moi mayam ni thok dong uhan gre ba kamai sigi Manipur de Imphal da Korela nara si ba jail da he was arrested adu ki ni Shibu Suran Champur khani je they have celebrated this as a victim of Meiteis from 2012 a tournament big football tournament sigi nationalist mobilization jogi nationalism je 2012 te hogrom na adu na bo 2015 da so you have the same problem Ase ekoi hogdri neba adagi sathi bana maitai gi makuta sigi ba mi mana football tournament sele amana naga gi makuta sigi bai na muksu next year 2013 that they have another celebration called Black September is in Karino the 1994 the 115 cookies were killed in the Kuki Naga class on a single day largest mi sib je chama trauma siba September ki tang traum do 1994 da adugi nimittu moina palan tawre bo hoji you know look at this Manipur the Kuki Naga maite nei sida these groups is trying to do is one enemy is Naga so they have a function one enemy is maite our Gokhatang king in tawraga nationalism ama sagat pa hograbagi madugi separate administration do in order to implement that according to my analysis as I feel it Nangi handaki hauraiba violence it is like the Muslim League who was longing for a separate homeland for the Muslims they started something called Direct Action Day it's part of your history textbooks the violence erupted in Kolkata on 16th Sigi Direct Action Day ga samane bhaurai se the violence on 12 they said that we can't live together. It is inevitable. Remember the word inevitable. The separate administration and the talk was already going on before that with the government of Manipur, territorial 6 schedule. They are already going on. So this violence is a technique to pressure the government, ensure that the spaces are separated. People hate each other, and that's the violence that was inaugurated on 3rd of May. Masi ekoi khanma mama chum ne ba se akoi na masida karmai respond to whether ge haiba pot to never lives so this is the nature now second very important thing we tend to forget asuk chauraba leipa amada India da asuk mathau na lerba army leraba sina irang amada lefan mangam jiba maram kari gi noi sa everybody must ask why is that in a country like India this violence has been allowed for 3 months. Never has it happened in the history of the world. Never happened, in the history of the country. That such kind of violence was allowed for 3 months. Gujarat riot, Muzaffarnagar riot, whatever riots. You must ask this question. Why? Moina the state collusion with Meitei police are not tawle. And on the other hand, Meitei is just saying that Assam rifle, we are complaining. And why is that the government of India is silent? Why they are not doing? Is a serious matter, my dears. So I have said in public meeting as well as national TV, the inaction of the Indian state itself is an action that is involved in this violence. If they want to stop, they would have stopped this violence long time back. Before the looting happens, before anything, there's a reason. This is the third aspect that I want to tell you. Because unlike others areas, Manipur has been a theater of armed resistance, armed insurgencies, call whatever you name. 50, 60 years, kulai pipe ga lay never. And the cookie gi group lady ba kangbu sa kanano ay bum sunoi akoy myam khanmi na bam chang never. These have been part of the counter insurgency strategy. Naga ki mayok ta han khulai on season maga maitai gi sajik tampak na ching du takhai ba su yauri never. Amoy gi reward people gi type level zik toris. You have done your job. Naga thugai re maitai ju thugai re no mana lo hai do ri bra. There's a serious issue that you should be thinking about and speaking about it. Don't blame cookies. Pochiyam ludra. There's more than this. Akoy no uri, but cookie adu da maitai cookies. Beyond that, there are other issues involved. So you must ask this. In a democracy, as a citizen of this country, akoy is a guinea pig to na season nari bro. Manipur sipu ngayom bigi ngayom bamda nupak ta leiba ka ga yona na badong na ubira bra hai ba masu koy hangmam thok ta bra na sibo. Is Manipur a fish on fish monger slab that can be cut into pieces and sold to whoever is demanding? Kilo om piro ani piro de yen dori brava. It is something that we all must think over this one. So don't exhaust your energy by saying cookie. Don't. There's more complicated stories. There's a nexus between. There is a nexus between mainstream politics and this armed politics. In handaki cookies the yengoba. Kana no yengoba MLA oiriziga huziki suda leiba kangu sinziki relation. What is the relationship between there? I can share some of them. Do you have it? Sigi ma'am si yengoba si. This is the nexus also. It's a fact. Anybody knows, everybody knows. It's not my fact. It was, I found it out on websites and many people's writing about it. It's everybody's knowledge. You understand this one? So, two iba problems se kari no haiba ma ko hujik sang neba si khanaba mama. Masida sida ai koi ki political party leaders lai biri ba mayam sina kari khalino. Geography ki potu yengoba deforestation hill flood to into Imphal da thole ke do baginoba. When I was young, Imphal to rail si ising uho braba mayam, my generations. Lu daga ising chelam ibalam ne ba koi iru jaram iba Mahabali gi dai da chatlaga iru jaba chatlam iba jaga ne ba. Go and check Imphal to rail ke do ge ngobjek, Thobal to rail ke do ge ngoba. Why is that all these rivers have been dried up? Because absorb the deforestation has led to that lack of absorption, landslide, number of landslides, floodlights, so there is flood. So there is an intimate connection between the hill and the valley. Even in environmental, you can't leave it. If you do a deforestation in the uplands, you will have a problem in the valley. We will be living like this. Sinangi territory history gi wada nateba your own life, a dignified life amba hingna bo hotna bada ching the valley ka kari mari leina gesa. It has to be told to people. It's not only about politics. What is the fundamental relationship between the hills and forests and the valleys, lake and the rivers? Aduda hingakpa ecology system aduda hingakpa miyo bezati na trokoi. Sing the kaduna sing chan ba pata kamuna longkhon ba hijin tai zikai no da basic survival we rely on forest nisiki Manipur ki forest kind lai bisinangi khuga gai lai sing these are all which is called valley forests by the British Darbar resolution of 1933 case DC Kate ki report 1933-1936 the Indian Foresters Journal the Fongmani. It says that these are forests from where Maitais used to get woods for firewoods, for building houses and building boats. Akoina angam werak pada bawda sing je chal chatna rameba mi dom. Wangkai de leiba mi sing na baruni the sing chan bai sa. Everybody knows. You ask anybody who is there in late 50s and 60s, they will tell you. Kung buda leiba ta hangoba. Sing chan ba chat paneba. So we are dependent on those things. Ngarang urbanization the torpatiki forest dealing torpai whatever. The same thing happens. Churan Champur, do you think that those people who live in Churan Champur towns are forest dwellers? Do they use firewood or gas? So what is this forest dwellers? Simply because some people are classified as scheduled tribes, so they are linked. Akoi dana link tawdre. Aduga umang lining is the kaido bagega. Maitais are the only one who worship forest deity. Christian chatkre na moi di amata loi hundokre Abrahamic religion chapane. Akoi di we don't discard our old rituals, our old belief system, do we? You know, Bamon, Brahmins and non-Brahmins, everybody worships Sanama in their houses. Moi na khangdabam chalai si mapan ge category ne lai temple and lairembi mai thado kuduna nang places of worship in Hyderabad, because you are buying the categories from the places of worship definition given by others. But if you look within your own culture, our house itself is a place of worship. Because you have an external concept, so you have the idea of a mosque, a temple and a church, so it is outside the house. But in Maitai's cosmology, lie doesn't exist outside of the house only. Lamgi lai haibro mayam tabra. We have this expression lamgi lai. Mapanda lai, that is outside the house. So there is another lie inside the house. Every house. This is not like people building a house and have a puja room. No, it's different. You may skip puja rooms in some houses, but in Maitai house you cannot skip Sanamai and Lemiril Sidabi's place. It is an essential part of building the house. So in your conception of place of worship, remember that our houses are places of worship. So that means when you say so and so are places of our houses were burned, you must be able to say in our own cosmology, you burn our houses means you are also simultaneously burning our places of worship. Sanamai da nang kumuto masang can you walk? No, we don't. Now see, this is how you look at yourself through different lenses. So the last one what I want to say is, so what do we do now? Lure huzik, aikoi ki leader na ngangmam thokpa ngang da quote of sa. Ningthau khubam kangkhat pagi fibam da aikoi masen the split tawnogum si. Keep in mind, you might like some minister, some MLA, some politician, some may not like it. But in these times, our battle is a collective survival. Laipa ki lan haibamaga, ningthau khubam ki lan haibamaga laibani. Akoi no hujik kan laugadaba lan che. Laipa ki lan oina laugadamni marakta tanja charaga ningthau khubam ki lan tawba mi se kanano su masak khangdok piu moina ngangpam da mangang ibase ningthau khubam ki wangang la natragana laipa ki lan ngang ibrai say you must figure out from your leaders. Sumaina chap tok sangraga thahum sujan gare uji wari changkang khangau dana kaino ma da naw thorokpa matamda irang bang haurga hana sunana toroga tawbudo madugi mauto hujiktagi khoi kari tawbu tai karam wakhan lobham tai habise khoi khangmam thoi aina aroi loisalakpada my message to you is this nai ngasai ga hai leiba mayam see if I conclude, every crisis is a moment of growth. Anova Manipurama, a new Manipurama, imagine Tonaba, Iko Yason na Karino, Iko strength na Karino, Iko in a load of a Philip na Karino, Kanatana Vice na Karino, crap in the bucket kind of like that, why Kupun, they could get to get characters in Inona. Iko Yason and the Kambagay, Isa the Horagas from Dokadavane. Begins from us. Then learn it, Nasi Manipuri, Hyderabad Society, this is a platform where you can try to practice the new Manipur. Can we discuss? We can have a oneness. Try it out. Leadership quality, leadership love you. We start, these are small battle for the larger game plan. So the battle you need to fight is Hyderabad Manipuri Society. You discuss this beyond such kind of meeting. Akoin tawri se kaino kari step tawbi ai Bangalore la leibna kai dauri Imphal la leibna kai dauri US la leibna kai dauri networking am torga. Let's create a synergy so that we defend a united, a new Manipur where not only Maitais, no Maitais with imperial nostalgia, but a new Maitais and a new Manipur with respect for everybody, every community, irrespective of their caste, creed, religion. ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯃꯃꯥꯡ ꯊꯥꯔꯒ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯗꯤ ꯁꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯐꯝ ꯊꯣꯛꯑꯦꯅ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯂꯤꯗ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯆꯠꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯈꯣꯡꯆꯠ ꯑꯃ ꯆꯪꯁꯤꯟꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯝ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯦ ꯃꯁꯤ ꯆꯠꯅꯅꯕꯒꯤ ꯈꯣꯡꯆꯠꯁꯦ it's already begins from here and now aina haijaningide will do tomorrow nate it is a serious challenge that we ever face in our life as a collective history the lehorodom ne sig incident se incident di chahi teret khuntak pa thoki bagi chahi chani subne khoi hujik leis 1819 dagina 1826 ni natra already 2019 was the completion of the chahi teret khuntak pa hobni we are in the mid of chahi teret khuntak pa incidentally this is our eastern front that we are fighting awana sona kande changa ki ga chap mana thengnare hujik british ki matam do leibu ke sona kande leibu kam hujik ki marak ta khoina lawgo do fereu kaino ipa ipu sina kari soigi akhoina hujik bau kari soigi kari chum thokpa ya habje khallaga a united manipur where everybody can live with dignity and harmony every community we need to work start discussing and acting right now press on your leaders not to be silent and be responsible. Mr. Hyderabad, thank you.